That's
The dawn of a new age.
Oh my god.
What up, 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 what is up, what is up, everybody? My name is Chase. Welcome back to the New Age Comics Podcast. This is a show where we like to do a variety of things, if that variety were one thing, and it were talking comic books. I got a big ass stack right here. I'll flip through it. Boom. Getting the ASMR out of the way. I hope you're doing well. There are a lot of things that are interesting about this week's episode. But wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having an awesome day, weekend, evening, whenever you're listening to this. Right now it is 2:18 in the morning as of my recording of this. Yep. I'm back on my bullshit, y'all. I'm doing more late ass recordings. These are a blast from the past. I used to do these all the time on the show. It felt like it was every episode for maybe a month or two was like a 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Like I swear the worst one I ever did was a 3 a.m. recording. It got done at 5 a.m. It was terrible. I don't know why I did that. But as I've mentioned in pretty much every single one of my little intros for the past few weeks here, is that I am going through an ongoing struggle with trying to keep this show concise and short. So hopefully I can accomplish that in this episode. I'm aiming to, I'm hoping to. But we got a big stack of books here, a big week in comics. As you guys know, of course, I am behind, so I'm talking books that I think came out on March 3rd. These are March 3rd's books. So I'm in the month of March now, which is good. I'm happy to be, not an entire month behind, but a lot of significant books this week. A couple of them being indie books. We got a big indie section this week. I'll even just say what books we are. We got a full tease. I'm talking Nocterra and I'm talking BRZRKR. These are two humongous image books. Well, one is a boom book, one is an image book that have been very looked forward to. Also, what started this week was The Infinite Frontier over at DC. Very exciting for that. We also got the much anticipated Peach Momoko's Demon Days. So I'm going to be talking all of that in this episode. Stay tuned for my thoughts on that. And that's pretty much all I have for you. Let's have a nice, short, sweet episode. And I'm hopping right into the DC stuff. So I got a lot of DC books on this week. I actually got 5 of them. This is going to be the first half of this entire episode. I am swearing to you right now. But the first book, obviously, that we have to talk about, the most significant of the week, Infinite Frontier #0. The end of Future State and the beginning of the new era of DC, I guess. Apparently death metal or Dark Knight's death metal. It was a crisis event, so now we're technically in like a new era of DC, okay? And now we're looking ahead, the Infinite Frontier. It looks exciting, and we get one of these big-ass introduction books. This one actually reminds me a lot of the Marvel Legacy book that came out a few years ago. If you guys remember when Marvel was doing the whole Marvel Legacy event, which I thought was a cool event. That was actually right around the time I was getting into comics, just like back two some years ago. And so what this book is it's really just one of those, like, here's what everybody's doing, or like, here's where everybody's going in the next, couple months or years of DC. And I don't know. I mean, there's basically some notable ones, some not so notable ones. I will note the notable ones. I really liked the Justice League one. This features the very controversial scene that I guess dubs Black Adam as the Shazadam. Yeah, the Shazadam. I think this was all a big thing that was blown out of proportion. But basically, the Justice League here was a teaser for the Brian Michael Bendis Justice League, which I am very excited for. The same can pretty much be said about the Batman story. It's just kind of a teaser lead into the James Tynion Batman that it's going to be returning. It's already been awesome. We've already been loving it. I really liked the Green Arrow and Black Canary teaser in here. I did not know what that was teasing. I don't know if they're getting a book coming up in the Infinite Frontier. I mean, of course, the assumption based off the artist, this is one of those huge art team, writing team books, so I'm not even going to delve into it. Humongous writing staff. And the Green Arrow Black Canary story featured art by Alex Maleev, who was supposed to be drawing the Checkmate book with Brian Michael Bendis, like one of those Event Leviathan spin out type book things. So maybe that was a tease for that. I would hope so. It's going to be interesting to see if Bendis becomes more significant as a writer in the Infinite Frontier, seeing as now they're rebooting. But some of the stories that I found not super significant, the Wonder Girl story was cool. It's definitely setting up for her book, personalized her a little more, but I was kind of like, where that was a little not as fun as I thought her book was. I really liked her book, but I'm really excited for the new Wonder Girl book. The Teen Titans story was interesting. It also piques my interest for the new Teen Titans Academy book, which I will be getting. But the guy buying that like red X mask, I was like, what the hell? I have to shout out the Omaha representation in the Stargirl story. I don't know shit about Stargirl, but I learned now that she is in that mythical Nebraska city, Blue Valley, Nebraska. I Googled it. It's not a real city in Nebraska. And then the Alan Scott story, which I actually thought was really touching. It was Alan Scott coming out to his kids. I actually recently just learned all of this too, that Alan Scott came out in the comics as gay, which is pretty neat. I saw a lot of LGBTQ community members saying that apparently his original story was really faithful to the experience of coming out late in your life. And I think that's cool that they were able to do that representationally. But that being said, too, in this Infinite Frontier book, there was a connecting Wonder Woman story or theme throughout it all, which I thought was cool. And then it ended with some Darkseid shit. So what the hell? Darkseid is the DC's Thanos. It's official now. But that's not the only Infinite Frontier thing that we got this week. We got a couple more Infinite Frontier books, 3 more to be exact. And one of them is, of course, the Batman issue 106, written by Tinian, drawn by Jimenez, and colored by Moray. This is, of course, very exciting, the return of James Tinian Batman run. And this is definitely like a return to normalcy type book. Like, we're coming out from Future State. Future State was really crazy, wild. Tinian wasn't even writing anything. And then now we're back. And so we're definitely getting reacquainted with Batman and with all our characters and where they are now. Obviously, we've came out of a crisis event, but everything seems sort of just, I don't know. It's not, I don't want to say normal in Gotham, but picking up pretty much right where 105 left off. So there's no real connection to death metal or anything like that here. But all the side characters are here. We see Harley, we see Ghostmaker, we see who else? Batgirl, or Barbara, I should say. We get caught up on Bruce's new living situation, which I actually really like his new digs. He just has like an apartment, which is pretty cool. I live in an apartment, so I'm like, hey, representation for us apartment livers. But it is cool to see Batman broke. I guess he's not broke, but to sort of just like not living in the mansion, out of his comfort zone. These are all really fun things, just as a reader. And another interesting point in this book is that Ghostmaker and Batman are like homies now. They're like actually just friends. So we'll see how far that goes and to what extent that will go. Batman's not really, one to have many friends in the comics. Obviously, he's always been friends with Superman. But it's not like they hang out all that often. They don't go get beers or anything. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But another new thing in this book is the introduction of the Unsanity Collective, which is something I've actually covered on the podcast a little bit here and there, along with their new protagonist or antagonist, our new antagonist, Miracle Molly. This was sort of her soft first introduction. It was pretty cool, pretty light, but pretty cool. She was just steering like a a drone with some goons on it. But we also meet Saint Industries, or this mysterious CEO, bald fucking guy, who is Mr. Saint. And he's very mysterious, very interested to see where this monopolization story angle takes us. And then, of course, this is the Scarecrow story, all wrapped up in this. There's a lot going on. There's so much going on in the Batman mythos at the moment, but it's all super duper exciting. But moving into our next book, oh God, wait, how could I forget to talk about the Robin mini in the back? Sorry, guys. This is written by Williamson and drawn by Melnikov. This was a super fun little mini story. I loved Talia in this back matter. She was very sleek, very fun. The art was super duper dope. I'm definitely going to be picking up the Robin book when that actually starts dropping. But what the fuck is this whole Lazarus League type shit? It's going to be continued in Detectives, apparently. We'll see what the fuck that all looks like. Lazarus League, though, I mean, with the Lazarus Pit in play, that's very interesting. I was theorizing with Trevor, my roommate, earlier, that this could be in some way related to the potential return of Alfred, perhaps not. We will see. Any Lazarus Pit playing, of course, is going to give me that idea. But like I was saying, moving into our next book, Suicide Squad issue number 1, written by Thompson, drawn by Panacea, and colored by Mayalo. So this was my first ever Suicide Squad comic that I've ever purchased. Hand on my heart, hope to die, or whatever they say. I've never been a super big Suicide Squad guy. Did not care for the movie, of course, and just never really got much into the comics. I've just, it's never been a I don't like them type thing. I'm defending myself here. But no, I really dug this issue. I kind of just gave it a shot. Trevor was picking it up, and I was like, hey, fuck it. Why not get it with him? The whole Peacemaker significance of this new, he's not a new character, right? Like, he's an old character, but they're bringing him back into significance. I think that's cool. And I'm excited to see John Cena, obviously, play Peacemaker in the upcoming movie. But no, I thought this was a really fun comic. It was fast-paced, action-packed, tons of fucking fun. It was really tense from the beginning. They set up this thing with Rick Flag and Amanda Waller immediately. That's super duper tense throughout the entire comic. It's of course the whole like, how could you? Holy shit! This is beyond anything I could have ever thought you'd do. And Amanda Waller then replies like, it's already done, just that kind of shit. But it was really fun and tense in this book. And like I was mentioning with the now relevance of Peacemaker, he seems to be like the new leader of the Suicide Squad, because there's a whole new team comp. It looks like they're pulling, I can't really compare it to a run, but it looks like they're just going to be introducing new characters left and right. I'm pretty sure all the characters in this book are new, outside, of course, of the Talon that they're rescuing from Arkham Asylum here. Another cool thing is that they're recruiting new Suicide Squad members. Another very cool thing. And the cliffhanger with Superboy. Holy shit. That really had my jaw dropped. We will see where that goes. I would love to see if Superboy was on the Suicide Squad. Can you imagine that? That would just be totally nuts. But moving into our next book, The Swamp Thing, issue number 1, written by Ram V, drawn by Mike Perkins, and colored by Mike Spicer. This book took me, I would say, by surprise. First and foremost, I think we're getting a new character here. His name is Levi, and I love him. I think Ram V introduced a really cool and compelling character here right off the bat. And I'm saying I think he's a new character. I frankly do not know. I know that there is, of course, the original Swamp Thing guy. I'm pretty sure he is as per comics usual, some white guy. And I'm not sure if I've ever met this Levi figure. I could be wrong. Maybe he is a past inheritant of the Swamp Thing or whatever, but I have a lot of questions, of course, rolling out of it. I think Swamp Thing died in Dark Knight's death metal. He was significant. And so I don't know if that's the reasoning why we might be getting a new character here or a new inheritant of the swamp, of the green, right? Whatever it's called. But no, I seriously loved this book. It seriously felt like I was reading like an HBO Marvel Knights book. I think Mike Perkins' art is super comparable to the Marvel Knights era, very dark, very glim style. And maybe I'm just searching for very obscure words. But I absolutely loved Mike Perkins' work on this book. There were a ton of horror elements that he was just knocking right out of the park, totally nailing them. They were definitely Immortal Hulk inspired, I would say. I think Immortal Hulk is having a lot of influence on the industry right now. Horror books are kind of back in, they're sort of just the new thing at the moment. But I think that's great. Swamp Thing is definitely a character that is very familiar with the horror genre. And Ram V has been writing the hell out of the mystical side and the horror side of comics. So I think this was a perfect matchup. I absolutely loved this book. It was super great. I am excited as hell to see where this goes. And I hope it gets extended. I was surprised, like everybody else, that this was only a 10-parter. So I hope it gets extended. But I totally love this book. And last but not least, this isn't really a Infinite Frontier book per se. This is sort of one of those out of continuity, just DC books right now. It started coming out when Future State was going on. Man Bat, the second issue dropped. This is written by Wild Gauze, drawn by Kumar, and colored by Fajardo Jr. This book, the first issue, was sort of out of nowhere that I really liked it. I've always really liked Man Bat, so I figured it would be good, but it really blew my expectations out of the water for a random Man Bat book. But this follow-up I thought was decent. It was very sad. I love Man Bat. I think he's such a tragic villain that you just want to hug him after reading this book. It's such a tragic story. You're just getting piled on with the emotional shit in the second issue. But of course, that's not the main feature. The main feature is the fight with the Suicide Squad. And I guess this might be the last time that we ever get to see the original old classic Suicide Squad team comp, because they do show up in here. It's Harley and King Shark and Croc and all of that. But there's actually a really cool scene between Croc and Man Bat, where there's the the parallel drawn of that they're both like wild animals, and it is super scary, these scenes, because I love how they do that with Kumar's art. Is they really pump the gas when it comes to just like the actual like genuine horror that a big ass bat would impose. It's not like Immortal Hulk type body gore dysmorphia type horror. It's just like genuinely a big ass bat would be scary as fuck. You can quote me on that. But I really liked this book. And the next episode is going to have Harley Quinn therapy. I'm really hoping this series does not turn into like a cameo series where it's like, this issue is the Suicide Squad, next issue is Harley Quinn, next issue is Batman. Like, oh my God. There were some series that happened like that. I remember Damage, like the New Age Heroes Damage that came out a little bit ago. Definitely was one of those cameo type series. I hope this one doesn't befall that same fate, but we shall see. So that is all for the DC books this week. I'm talking indie books and Marvel books next. But first, we're taking a quick ad break, and then we will be right back with the book reviews. Support for this podcast is brought to you in part by... Hey friends, it's Chase with New Age Comics, and I'm here to tell you about an upcoming comic that you cannot miss out on, Sin Eater. Sin Eater has everything you could want from a comic book. Written by John Simmons, it has tons of action, an awesome twist of religious mythology, and a plot that hooks you in and leaves you wanting more. And the art by Marcos Almeida and Icao de Oliveira has tons of character and just pops the way it needs to. You can back issues 1 and 2 of Sin Eater on Kickstarter.com. Just search Sin Eater by John Simmons and you can see their pledge rewards. They have a huge range of options from digital to physical to virgin and metal covers. The link to the Kickstarter is in the description and the project ends March 25th. Trust me, friends, you won't want to miss out on this one. And we are back. Special shout out to Sin Eater. They actually just hit our sponsor there. If you skipped the ad, you should not have. But our sponsor here just hit their goal on their Kickstarter. So now they're pushing into stretch goals. So a bit of an extra ad here. Go check out Sin Eater on Kickstarter. Their stretch goals are dope. And this is important to bring up in this section because now I'm talking the indie books of the week. So that's a bit of part of the indie section, the most indie a book can get. But let's start this week. 2 huge books, both that were involved on Kickstarter. Actually, that's a very interesting irony that just popped up here. But, I'll start with the Image book, which was Nocterra. This is written by Scott Snyder, drawn by Tony Daniels, and colored by Tamu Moray. So this book started as a Kickstarter, I believe. I'm not exactly sure the entire story arc of the production of this book. I am pretty sure that it did start on Kickstarter. I'm not exactly sure if Image picked it up before it was up on there or afterwards. But I decided to just kind of skip out on backing it because I had backed actually the next book that I'm going to be talking about on Kickstarter. But no, this one got distributed by Image. So my thoughts on this book, oh my gosh, I was floored by this issue. This story was so freaking epic. Right off the bat, just tons of lore. It sets up such a cool world. Like, this book seriously blew me away. I'm a huge fan of the sci-fi genre, of course. Obviously, this is a comic book podcast. So, of course, that is an interest of mine. But this felt like I was watching a movie. This felt like I was watching, like, Blade Runner meets freaking like Fallout plus I don't even know, plus if you subtract the sun out of the equation. This book is so crazy. I guess the plot is that I think, Jesus Christ, now I'm forgetting, but I think it's that the sun literally goes out, and then there's this whole disease worked into it where if you don't see light in a short amount of time, you end up catching this disease and turning into like this zombie. It's insane. Such an epic story, tons of lore set up. And like I'm saying, it's like a movie with classic Image dialogue. Of course, there is some swearing. I love me a good swear word or two in a comic book. But I love the main character, Val. She is super cool, and you get a ton of emotional appeal right off the bat with her brother and her family. So there's no problems there. Like, you instantly fall in love with the characters. I love just the design of the world. Like I said, I compared it to Fallout earlier, and I think it's just such a cool aesthetic. It's such a cool aesthetic. And there's so many visual possibilities given the whole situation with there being no light and flashlights and glow sticks and everything like that. Like, there's going to be so many cool art pieces here. And Tony Daniels is just a great artist. So I am super pumped for the possibilities in this book. I don't know how long it's actually going to be, but there's an amazing hook at the end with this guy bringing up this specific thing that our main character is doing. It's nuts. Okay, I'm not even going to spoil that last part. But moving into our next and last book, this is also an indie book. Not an Image book, though. This is a Boom Studios production that also begun on Kickstarter, and maybe you all have heard of this one as well. BRZRKR 1, or should I say BRZRKR. Issue number 1. This is a hugely anticipated book written by Matt Kindt, and of course, for all of its notoriety's sake, Keanu Reeves, the actor, the amazing God among us, Keanu Reeves, is writing this comic, and then drawn by Ron Garney. Such a cool artist to see working with such a star-studded team, and then colors by Bill Crabtree. So holy motherfucking shit, this book had so much hype behind it for obvious reasons, of course. Keanu Reeves breaking into the comic book writing game. He's always had like connections to nerd culture. He's been just ultimately praised. I know he's always been a fan of comics, maybe not always been a fan, but I'm pretty sure he appreciates the medium. I'm pretty sure it's hard confirmed that he likes anime. Very random. But he's a nerd, right? And so working in comics, he said, was a blast for him. And then obviously Matt Kindt. I fucking love Matt Kindt. He's an amazing writer. Ron Garney, awesome artist. What else could you want? What else could you want from this book? And then that all being said too, I backed this on Kickstarter. So all my hype for this book was plenty for me to decide to back it on Kickstarter. And so for that reason, my copy that I read of this book was the digital issue that I had received via email from Kickstarter. So I'm not actually sure if I'm going to keep covering this book because I don't know if I really want to be buying all the singles since I'm having the trades coming in a few months. Anyway, getting into the book. This book was fucking off the walls wild. I loved it. This was an action roller coaster, a total Keanu Reeves-ass story. Like this, not only is the main character quite visually, literally Keanu Reeves, but it's like a movie he would be in. Like it's written, it's directed exactly like a movie he would be in. I'm not sure if that was Keanu Reeves' doing as a writer or if that was Matt Kindt. Who's to say? I'd be really curious to hear like what the writing process was like between them. But this story is just so insanely violent, insanely gory. It's amazing. I loved it. There are some crazy scenes with our main character like punching people in the head and their skull exploding and eyeballs flying everywhere. It's amazing. Like it's a visual just blast to read. And there's actually plenty of story by the end of the book that will definitely keep you hooked. You immediately get some emotional appeal with the character. He's apparently 80,000 years old, which is really, really nuts. We will see how that goes. And hey, by the end, they even show you a little bit of titty. So that was cool too. But the titty is bleeding because our main character is seen as a baby infant breastfeeding from his mother, and her nipple starts to bleed. So that's the kind of imagery you can expect if you decide to check this book out. But I loved it for what it was, for the action roller coaster that it was, and definitely something that's going to be super fun to keep up with. All right, now I am collapsing the previous King in Black differentiation in sections for the comic reviews from the Marvel sections, the non-event books. It's all just Marvel now. Since DC is all just DC, so is Marvel. All right, sue me. All right, moving in, I am going to talk about the one King in Black book I got this week, which was King in Black Thunderbolts issue number 3. This is written by Matthew Rosenberg, drawn by Juan Fiera, the amazing creative team. I loved this book. Another action-packed book that's been a theme this week. We got a lot of fun books. The art was amazing. I love Juan Fiera. He seems to be doing a lot of event books. I don't know why, but he's killing it, okay? I also have to tip my fedora to Matt Rosenberg because he always seems to be hopping onto events as well. I remember I'm pretty sure he wrote something for War of the Realms. I'm pretty sure he wrote something for that Iron Man 2020 event. And now here he is writing for King in Black. So shout out to Matt Rosenberg. He's doing the real dirty work, coming up with new event tie-ins. It's a lot of awesome shit. And this is easily one of, I think, the funniest and most fun King in Black tie-ins. Definitely one of the ones I would recommend for somebody, seeing as we're at the end of King in Black here in the next month or so. I would absolutely recommend that this be one that you read. Matt Rosenberg is hilarious here. He makes a ton of jokes that the Thunderbolts are essentially the Suicide Squad. He's doing that like meta, like almost saying Suicide Squad, but not really. We even get some visual motif references that I just thought were a lot of fun. And he switches up the team comp here of the Thunderbolts, which you guys know me. That's something I will always praise a comic for is if they switch up the team comp. That always makes my interest peaked. And yeah, I thought this was one of the best King of Black tie-ins so far. So absolutely, please check that book out. Hilarious ending. Moving on into a very controversial book that I have taken a controversial stance on, which is the Avengers series right now. I'm talking Avengers issue number 43. This is written by Jason Aaron, drawn by Javier Garrón, and colors by David Curiel. So this book continues the Enter the Phoenix stuff, which has, like I've been saying, it is polarized people quite significantly. People really don't care for Aaron's treatment of the Phoenix. People don't really care for Aaron's treatment of a lot of characters. Aaron is a writer that does not seem to care a lot for the sanctity of lore. That's a light way to put it. But this issue in particular, issue number 43, is pretty much just more Phoenix fighting, which was something I was surprised to see. I think the last issue was a straight up like gauntlet style, like each 2 pages was a fight. And I was expecting that to be the only issue like that. And that here we would get a little more like personal story guidance. But no, this is a bunch more fighting. Our first fight here is Black Panther versus Wolverine. That actually takes up most of this issue. Kind of interesting why this one particularly took up most of it. But I'm pretty sure Black Panther won that one, which was cool. Thor, he ends up talking to his new mom a little bit, which was interesting, very interesting. That is something that has very much ruffled everybody's feathers. We really don't get much closure on that in this issue, so we'll have to keep on reading for that. But now we get the finalists announced pretty much, as you could say. We're narrowed down to just a few people. And it's Namor versus She-Hulk, Red Widow versus Shanna and Zabu, and then Cap versus Black Panther. So I think that's going to be the next episode. The next issue gets teased here at the end with a silhouetted figure that I honestly, so I've been meaning to make this hot take. I think that it's Echo. I frankly just think the silhouette looks like the Echo, or like Echo's silhouette, I should say. And there were some specific scenes dedicated to her, like in the first issue of this arc or something. And we haven't seen her since. I don't know. I could be very wrong. Maybe it's going to be the Red Widow. It's definitely a female figure. But that all being said, I think that this Enter the Phoenix arc is definitely kind of plateauing a little bit. I am not offended at it like a lot of people are. I think it's fine. I think it is still very fun and just a good time to read. But in terms of, I don't know, my overall enjoyment of where the arc is going, I would like to see it take a few more significant steps. We shall see. I think this is going to end at 45, maybe 44. Not exactly sure. Moving into our next book and our last book, this is also, man, a lot of highly anticipated books this week. The highly anticipated Peach Momoko's Demon Days X-Men issue number 1. Tons and tons and tons of hype for this book. And me personally, I didn't have a ton of expectations walking into it. There was a bit of a teaser, I think, at the end of the last King in Black event book, and I liked the teaser, so I was like, hey, let's give it a shot. I like Peach Momoko's art, but I do kind of not understand the extreme amounts of hype. She is very hyped up at the moment, and I am not saying that she is bad at all. I own a lot of her stuff. I think she is a great artist. I guess I'm just like, it's coming strong. I'm like, I'm just, where is it all coming from? Maybe it is her raw talent. And part of that surprise actually bore a little bit from seeing this book. I thought, wow, that's crazy. Marvel gave this relatively new artist, she is one of Marvel's Stormbreakers, gave this artist her own book and her own one-shot series, it seems. So a lot of faith put into her on Marvel's end, but How did the book turn out? I thought it turned out awesome. I really enjoyed this book. It was a ton of fun. It introduces this new universe, kind of in like a 1602-esque way, is like a comparison that I feel like I can draw, where it kind of reinterprets characters, if that makes sense. How if you read 1602, you still meet Peter Parker, Matt Murdock, Doctor Strange, the Fantastic Four, Captain America, but they all have different, different, I don't know. They're morphed to the time. It's 1602 in Great Britain or England or somewhere. Don't quiz me. This isn't the comic book quiz podcast. But that's kind of what this Demon Days book is doing, which I thought was really cool. I love 1602, so I welcomed that aesthetic. And the heroes that we get to see kind of like remixed in this comic are Psylocke, Hulk, Logan, and Venom. A very mixed bag, but it does say X-Men as the sort of lead subject of this book, because Psylocke is kind of the main person that we sort of follow. She is very badass in this book. The art here is super duper stunning. I love Peach Momoko's art. It is very manga inspired. I say with caution. I'm pretty sure that Peach Momoko actually lives in Japan or works in Japan. Like, I'm pretty sure that's where she actually lives and works. And so she might just frankly be a manga artist and she is just working with Marvel. I don't really know. The first time I am hearing or seeing of her work is through Marvel. So I'm assuming this may be one of her first gigs. I could be wrong. I probably am wrong. I would assume so. But definitely some manga influence, obviously, given that she, lives and works in Japan. But I think it's really cool. It's Marvel dipping their toes into a popular style. I'm not a huge manga reader. I have read one manga. It is the Ghost in the Shell book, which was reprinted by Dark Horse. So even in that sense, it was read left or right to left, right? No, left to right. It was read like normal American books. So it was diet manga is what I always tell people. But getting out of that tangent, the ending of this book threw me for a hard loop. It did like the whole Inception thing where the whole story we just experienced was actually just being read out of a magazine. So that threw me for a loop, and it looks like we're going to continue the story. But with these new characters that we just met at the end here, I thought we were going to continue the story of this book, but I guess not. And the next Demon Days one shot, which that was confusing to me. I was anticipating this specific issue being like serialized, so we'd get Demon Days X-Men 2, but no, our next book is going to be Demon Days Mariko 1. Which she was featured at the end of this book here, but then interestingly enough, so was someone with a Black Widow hair barrette or hair tie or something like that. Very interesting. Some very interesting shit going on right now. But if you like alternate universes and you like those kind of rethinkings of the universe, definitely check out this book. Ton of fun. Peach Momoko is definitely worthy of all of the hype that she is getting right now.
Well, this was fun.
Until next time.
And that's all I have for the comic talk, the comic reviews today. I did do a little better. I did do a bit of a shorter episode. So kudos to me. Hopefully I can get it even shorter and even more precision, razor blade concise in the next episode. But as promised, here is the top 5 ranking of my thoughts of these books this week. Okay, so no more dilly-dallying. Into the list for my number 5 issue, I'm giving it to Batman issue number 106. Loved this book. Always gonna love getting the new Tinian Batman. And it was just great to see it again. For my number 4, I'm throwing it to Demon Days X-Men, the Peach Momoko book. I thought this was a really fun book. Just got done talking about this one. I just love the whole remixed universe stories. Super interested to see where that goes. For my number 3 book, I am throwing this one to BRZRKR, issue number 1. Loved this book. It was just a total adrenaline rush book. I was really tired when I was reading it, and I literally felt like more awake by the end of it. So there's my review in a nutshell. For my number 2 comic, I am throwing this one to a very beloved book from me this week. I'm very excited to see where this series goes. Swamp Thing, the Swamp Thing, I should specify. I really loved this comic. I love this new character, if it is a new character, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. This book is just super dope. Some Marvel Knights nostalgia for me in terms of the vibe. And for my number 1 spot, I had to give it to this book. This book rocked my fucking socks off. Nocterra, issue number 1. Loved it. Loved that book so much. The concept was awesome. The art was awesome. I always love adding a new image book to my poll, so I was super excited for that, and it pulled through all the way. Loved Nocterra. Please, guys, check that book out. Please. A lot of awesome books this week. And for the last segment before I get out of y'all's hair is I get to talk all the books that I'm going to talk next episode. Holy shit, this is a annoyingly big stack of comics, okay? Here's the flip. And because my comic reviews are late, I have all these comics right now. So here, let me count them real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, holy shit, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I'm pissed. Okay, hopefully I'll find time to read these. Hopefully soon here. You guys are being very patient with me for being late and all that shit. So I appreciate it. I love you if you're listening. But here are the books that I'm going to be talking about in the next review. Okay, a lot of books here. For Marvel, I'm going to be talking Daredevil, issue number 28. Very excited for that. Eternals, issue number 3, Immortal Hulk, issue number 44, all books that I have just been totally head over heels for. Speaking of Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood, issue number 4, been loving that book. Taskmaster, humongously loved by me on the podcast. A book I'm super pumped for, the last Marvel book that I'm going to be talking about, a number 1, it is Nonstop Spider-Man, issue number 1, super duper pumped for that. You guys know I'm a big Chris Bachalo fan, so I was totally just beyond myself when I saw we were getting a new Chris Bachalo book. Moving in, I got a couple indie books that I'm very elated to be talking. We got Bloodshot, issue number 12, and then maybe the books that I, of course, am going to be most hype about. Blade Runner 2029, issue number 3, and then Blade Runner Origins, issue number 1. So pumped for that. Got the cool ass Peach Momoko cover there. And then lastly, for my DC books, I got 4. We got, just some, the hype. The hype is unkempt right now because we're talking Joker issue number 1, Rorschach issue number 5, Batman Urban Legends issue number 1, and Superman issue number 29. Phil Hester and Philip Kennedy Johnson are going to be taking over Superman now. So excited for like all of those books. I literally can't think of one that I'm not highly anticipating out of that stack. Please tune in for that episode. And that is all I have for you guys today. I love y'all for listening. Thank you so much. I hopefully got this episode to be a good grip shorter. And yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working on catching up. This week was super stressful for me with class and all that shit. So I am super grateful for you guys for being patient with moi. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to do all that shit. You can probably hear how tired I am in my voice. All right. Love you guys. I'll see you in the next episode. Later.